Well, good morning. It's good to be with you today after a couple weeks off. Welcome to the 109th episode of Lightbulb Moments. We're also live on YouTube here, so subscribe to our YouTube channel to check out past episodes at Qunity. Those of you that are joining us live, good morning and welcome. Those of you that are listening to the recording of this or watching on YouTube, thanks for joining us. I'm Tom Kuhn. I'm host and curator of Lightbulb Moments. I'm also CEO of Qunity. Remember, money isn't the most important thing in life, but it is reasonably close to oxygen on the gotta have it scale. At Qunity, we're here to help you to go from confusion, overwhelm, complexity, etc., to a clearer path towards prosperity, whatever that means to you. Using new rules of engagement, which is simple, visual, and actionable. And remember to prosper, manage your ATM to three currencies we have in life: attention, time, and money. It's not lost on us how you are spending your precious time with us. So thanks for joining us today, either live or listening to the recording. Our last guest was Phil Horvath, a returning guest, CEO of Floyd's 99 Barbershop. An amplified experience is more than just what you see inside the shop. It comes through in the individuality of our team members. We really live by that and take pride in that because that allows our team to set their own vibe and personality. Very wise words and a light bulb moment from Phil. Today, we have Zach Renke of Living Proof, CEO. Super excited to have Zach on as a guest. We've been working on getting a date scheduled, and we had a wonderful prep session last week, and I'm really excited for all of us to get to spend time with Zach. Remember, at Qunity, we provide financial wellness, whether it's for students, employees, or leaders, through our Money EDU, Money Pro, or Money SBO program. We do have some save the dates coming up. We are on the final stretch. We still have people signing up. It's not too late. This is our signature financial management workshop. It is in the Twin Cities, March 13th and 14th. Super easy to get in and out of town. It's right by the airport. It's a great venue. And a few different things in terms of feedback from past participants: 77% increase in financial confidence, 60% increase in financial literacy, and 100% would recommend to others. The numbers and the metrics we're seeing from people that went through this course last September is incredible. This is a program for owners and managers, as well as other members of the finance team. The intention is to increase profits, level up your finance function, and improve cash flow. All very good things. The Phil, oh my gosh, we've got some exciting announcements coming up for the Phil. It's May 21st through 23rd. Actually, May 21st is a celebration of Lightbulb Moments. It's a special event on a Sunday night. We also have a new workshop, a drum roll here, that we'll announce next week. That's something we only offer every 4 years, and I'll announce that next week, including speakers. But this Phil this year is going to be a complete. Last year was great. This year is going to be a leap in terms of several things we do. I'll give you a couple teases. We are going to have a segment and a whole track to eliminate the gap between salons and schools, through a panel, through speakers, etc. And so that is going to be a very special segment that we haven't seen very often in conferences, is schools and salons getting together and being in the same conversation. We also have some great speakers. We've got some great workshops. We've got some new tools. We got the Impact Awards. So you're going to hear more and more about the Phil in upcoming weeks. It is in Austin, Texas, at a wonderful property called The Line. And a lot of the conference really addresses is tools. It's always the time where we release new tools, paper and digital. And this is really a key component to the theme of the Phil, which is really about filling the gaps in your business and filling your bucket, getting out of town. I love this quote, though: if you want to teach people a new way of thinking, don't bother trying to teach them. Instead, give them a tool, the use of which will lead to new ways of thinking. Also, Erin has launched Money O2, which is essentially an abbreviation for Money Oxygen. And her podcast is now live. The first episode is blockbuster. You have to listen to the very first. You should listen to all the sessions. But Erin's been working on this for a very long time, and boy, does she have some great topics and some great guests. So certainly check that out. Compensation study, of course, I talk about that every single week. We have circulated the report. We are soon moving into the 2023 plan, which will be to reopen submissions so we can get data using 2022 data, which then allows us to do trends, which we weren't able to do in the first year. If you haven't gotten the report, if you want the report, we don't want fee to be the issue for you to get the report. Participants, you should have had an email. Also, several sponsors had copies that they could send out. But if you want the report, just let us know. We'll make sure you get it. Includes infographics. And it really is under the umbrella of CUNY Institute, which really believes that with actionable data and financial literacy, we can have economic empowerment. My light bulb moment before I bring Zach into the conversation is I'm coming off a week of being out in Southern California and out in the desert, which is wonderful. You know, many of you have heard me talk about the strategic coach program, which is something that was very influential in my career, especially early in my career as an entrepreneur. And one of the things that they taught is the importance of taking free days. And a free day, by definition, is a day where you don't talk about work, you don't think about work, and you're completely off the grid. And the assertion is that following free days, you have your most productive, you have your most light bulb moments. For me, I don't really like being totally off the grid because I like what I'm doing. We have a lot of projects, we have the fill coming up, et cetera. So it was super great to be able to get up early, work for a few hours, and then enjoy being in California. So for all of you, and as you're looking at growth, and if you're looking at possibilities, and at times feel like, geez, you know, I just need a break, take a break. Take a break, and you'll get a tale of innovation. You'll get a tale of new ideas. You'll get all these different things that will happen as a result of that. And it also gives your team a little breathing room. So anyway, that's my light bulb moment for the week. All right, let's bring Zach into the conversation. We will be welcoming Zach to our Brain Trust. Good morning. How are you, Zach?
Morning, Tom. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you. You know, I've got one more slide I'm going to pull up here, and then it's just going to be you and me on the camera. And I know we're going to be talking about this, so I'm going to bring it up right now. It's sort of the word that jumped out to me when I spoke with you, and that's the word omni-channel. When we sent out an invitation on Zach, we were talking about a team. It's like, what exactly is omni-channel? So anyway, that's a little tease about something we're going to talk about in a little bit, but let me do a proper welcome to you, Zach. Again, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, my pleasure. I'm loving this concept on the free day too. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, it's and you're probably a guy, I mean, you got a lot of responsibilities, Zach, don't you?
Oh, something like that. I mean, at the end of the day, I try to tell people we're just making shampoo, but you know, I guess we do run a global hair care company that's fairly well known in the industry, and I'm humbled and honored to do it.
Well, humbled and honored, it seems like a bit of your personality, because the way I have been exposed to Zach is you're also part of PBA. You're an active. What is your official capacity within PBA as a volunteer?
Yeah, so on the Professional Beauty Association, I kind of have two roles. The first is I'm the chairman of the Manufacturers Advisory Council. So I kind of, I guess, represent the point of view of the manufacturers and the industry at the PBA. And then I'm also one of 12 members of the board of directors of the organization.
So where I got to see you was main stage, being a bit of the MC both years, and you handled it so perfectly. You did great transitions, you had a great welcome, and I thought this is a guy that we need to talk to more, bring into the conversation, and get to know. So, and I got to know you a little bit last week. So let's explore a little bit and talk about just in a nutshell. Bring us up to speed on your career.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, interestingly, I didn't start my career in the beauty industry. Like I think a lot of people kind of found my way into it over time. But yeah, I started actually as a sales guy at Procter & Gamble on the mass side of the business, selling some really sexy products like Sunny Delight and Pringles and Charmin and Bounty. But, you know, I kind of cut my teeth there. And after about 7 years at P&G, I got an opportunity to work on a newly acquired business at that time, which was P&G had just purchased the Wella Professionals portfolio of brands. I was based in Southern California and seemed like a great opportunity to keep growing my career, to work on this new interesting business that P&G had acquired. So I worked there at Wella for 7 years, and in fact, I see someone on this call in the live audience today that was a member of the very first team that I managed at Wella. Rob Bugnai, how you doing out there, buddy?
Awesome.
But yeah, so anyway, after 7 years at Wella, kind of working my way up the ranks, I moved to Bumble and Bumble, where I led the North America sales organization initially, and then later led the brand across all functions as the global general manager. And then about 4 years ago, I was recruited by Unilever Prestige to lead the Living Proof business, now based out of Boston. So that's what I've been doing for the past 4 years.
Do we find you in Boston today?
You know what? I'm actually in Newport Beach today. So I was here for some visits with some of our retailers. But you know what? I'm not used to LA being rainy, but it's been very rainy since I've been here, unfortunately. But I can't complain, though. It's still warmer than Boston.
Very nice. Yeah. Well, so, that's a great career journey, and you would have had a lot of lessons and insights, different brands, different locations, different lenses within the beauty. And there's Robert right there making a comment for you. And what I'm super interested in is where you're at right now. And, Living Proof, I mean, you mentioned Wella, Bumble, Palm Mitch. On any given week, we might have several manufacturers that are listening in today, and you all have your points of difference. What's the point of difference? And I'm going to give you an opportunity to just do like a quick sort of education commercial on Living Proof.
Sure, absolutely. Well, first off, as a guy that was kind of grew up in the professional salon industry and worked on brands that came from a primarily hairdresser and stylist and salon owner point of view, it's been really interesting to learn a different side of the business at Living Proof, which is really the science part of the business. Living Proof was born in 2009 from a really unlikely combination of editorial hairstylists, salon owners in Boston, and biotech scientists. In fact, one of our founders, a gentleman named Dr. Bob Langer, he has 1,400 patents to his name. He's founded more than 50 companies. Most of them are actually in the drug delivery space and in the biomedical space. In fact, he's one of the founders of Moderna, and he and his team invented the mRNA technology behind the COVID vaccine. So these are some pretty hardcore biotech scientists that have been working in the medical space. And they had a brilliant idea one day. Bob Langer was getting his hair cut by Mitch DeRosa, a stylist and salon owner, also one of our founders. And Mitch got to kind of complaining one day that most of the technology in the industry and the core ingredients that are used in products really hadn't changed for years, decades, in fact. And one of the ingredients they found that hadn't changed for so long was actually silicone, which can build up on the hair and actually cause damage. So the very first discovery that happened out of Living Proof was the invention of a new molecule to replace silicone in hair care that actually made the hair healthier over time. And that's kind of where it started. Over the years, my team of R&D and scientists, we have research that are working on new technologies 5 or 6 years upstream. A full team of formulation chemists and engineers that create our products. And over time, we've created 6 proprietary technologies that only Living Proof use. We have 120 patents around the world. And I'd say what we really stake our claim on is science-driven, science-backed, scientifically proven hair care. And we're always trying to push the performance of what hair products can do. We actually started, you talked about this word omnichannel. We actually started with Sephora and Ulta were our first 2 customers. So we were actually born in the specialty beauty kind of channel. But over time, we started to get a lot of demands actually from stylists and salon owners to stock our products. So we've actually built a professional business over time. And that those kind of 2 pieces of our business complement the third part, which is the e-commerce part of our business, or direct to consumer, which is also a pretty big part of what we do.
So the business model is a great background on Living Proof, and you started to get into the business model a little bit too in terms of method of distribution. And So omni-channel, in this particular case, we had the definition up there. It's really multiple areas of distribution. And so you got the three basic areas. Now I think you're the first guest that we've had on here that has been in all of those channels. And so let's do it kind of bumper sticker short here. So basically it is direct to consumer through e-commerce.
Yep.
Is that like Amazon, et cetera?
We have our own website, and then we
Your
also use Amazon as a fulfillment partner. Yeah.
So you have just anybody can go in and buy your product.
Yeah, that's right.
Number two is a brick and mortar. And I'm going to break brick and mortar down into two. Brick and mortar, including places like Ulta, Sephora, that may not necessarily be a professional distribution center, even though Ulta would say they have chairs and whatever, but you get the point. And then the third area would be traditional distribution to salons. Those are really the three main channels, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's right.
Had you ever, I think at Bumble, two of the three were already represented, right? You did direct to salons, and you were working through like Sephora, et cetera.
Yeah, actually, all three of those channels were and are represented at Bumble and Bumble today.
Okay.
So, but the mix in terms of which parts of the business were biggest were different. Obviously, with Bumble being primarily a professional brand, that was a bigger part of the business than it is for us at Living Proof.
We might come back to some of those different distribution models, et cetera. But what really jumped out at me when we spoke was prestige hair care.
Mm-hmm.
And you also mentioned that salons haven't necessarily figured some of this out. Don't throw your hands up on retail, and everybody has an opportunity to get a piece of the pie, right? So
Yeah.
let's go there, because this audience is primarily going to be made up of the distribution channel that would be your traditional salons and spas. So talk about prestige hair care. What does it mean? Where the growth is coming from? And we'll do it in bite-sized chunks.
Yeah, totally. I think the first place to start is kind of what is prestige hair care, just to make sure everybody's clear on that kind of in the audience today. I mean, when we think about prestige channels, we think about specialty beauty stores like Sephora and Ulta, Blue Mercury in the Mid-Atlantic area, for example, and then also e-commerce, including Amazon, including direct-to-consumer, kind of all of those channels. So everything that's kind of not the professional channel for high-end hair care is the way that I think about it. There's a company that measures sales for kind of that channel. And interestingly, prestige hair care has been the fastest growing category that this within beauty that this company, NPD, actually tracks for many, many years now. Mm-hmm. If you go back to 2020, the year of the pandemic, prestige hair care grew something like 20%. You look back in 2021, prestige hair care grew 31%. And 2022, the numbers just came out recently, and the whole category grew again around 20%. So, what is going on, right? We've got all of these macroeconomic challenges going on, all of this external noise in the environment, but this business has absolutely exploded over the past few years. There may be some folks on your call today that maybe own salons or are stylists, and they may be scratching their head because they've not seen that same type of growth maybe in their own business, right? And so what I like to think about is really what's going on with the consumer. And what I find is that the consumer is actually in a place now where they're willing and able to spend more on hair care products. That company I told you about, NPD, what they found was the fastest growth in the prestige hair care category is actually in products that are priced above $25. Right. So this tells me that.
Hang on 1 second.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm just hung up on something. Yeah. And the word prestige, and you got to it right here. To me, prestige, and I didn't mean to cut you up, but I think it's an important point. Prestige to me represents price point. But you were also describing prestige as a method of distribution. So help me understand that just a little bit.
Yeah, prestige in the way that I'm using it is about the distribution channel and not the price point, right? Because you can think about many price points being represented. Orbe, for example, a very high price point that is distributed in the salons, right? Or Kerastase for that example.
Okay, gotcha. All right, didn't mean to cut you off. So you were talking about price points and where the trends are. Keep going.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, my point was that a lot of the growth that's happening is in products that are priced above $25. So consumers are saying they're willing to spend more on their hair, right? The other thing that's really interesting is they did a consumer survey, and 90% of consumers said they were interested in expanding their hair care routine or adding more products to the routine. When you think about like why has this happened, a lot of it I think has been influenced by COVID, because everybody had this opportunity to this self-care moment, right? To start indulging in things like treatments and other types of products like this. So this is one of the things that started the trend, but we've seen it continue to play out now years later.
So I'm a salon in Kansas, and I'm struggling with retail. Last week, actually 2 weeks ago, we were on with several of our multi-location accounts that's part of an inner circle group, and they connect once every 6 to 8 weeks. It's follows our 8-season methodology. It's called inner circle group. And a lot of them, in terms of what they wanted to talk about, was really how to address retail. And which isn't the first time we've heard that. That's one of those topics that comes up all the time. But
All the time.
So you're giving us maybe a fresh look at retail in terms of some of the growth trends and where the market's at. Keep going. I'd love to hear more about this opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. I like to ask myself, why is all this growth happening, right? And it really, for me, comes back to the recommendation and education, right? Which has always been core to what the salon industry expertise that exists out there, right? I know you talked about challenges that have been in the industry for decades, right? The age-old question of how do you get stylists to sell, right? The PBA did a study, it's probably been a decade now, called the Business of Beauty Report, but what they found was 70% of clients are leaving the salon without ever receiving a product recommendation, right? Now, probably doesn't surprise a lot of salon owners and stylists here that may be the case. And I'm sure we've got a lot of the other 30% that do make those recommendations and have that great retail culture in their salon on the call today. But unfortunately, we know that's not the case for the majority of the industry. And what these prestige channels are starting to figure out is how to take over and give the right personalization and recommendation to the consumer in the absence of a licensed professional, quite frankly. And they're using, technologies like AI on e-commerce to make product recommendations, hair quizzes, actually digital diagnostic tools using imaging analysis. And so in some ways, this should scare salon owners and stylists, right? Right? Because this is the one thing that has never been able to be touched by kind of the digital part of the world. And these retailers are starting to figure it out now, right? So that should be scary. But on the flip side, right? What's the one thing that salon owners and stylists will always have that will be a leg up on these other channels? And that's that 45 minutes to 90 minutes sitting in the chair, building a relationship with your clients and that personal credibility and trust. And so, it comes down to the age-old challenge in the industry, which is how do you get salon owners and stylists to embrace their rightful role and the role that consumers and clients want them to play, which is to educate, recommend, and give advice, right? They're yearning for it, and now they're looking outside of the salon channel to find it. So it continues to be a huge opportunity for salons and stylists.
Yeah, I mean, competing with giants in terms of technology and all of that. So what technologies are available to salons and spas for them to be able to keep up with this?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of interesting things, I think, going on in the industry where people are trying to figure out how you unlock the potential of digital for salons and stylists. I think of things like, Salon Interactive is working with distributors to bring e-commerce capabilities to salons. There are many brands in the industry that are developing affiliate programs that allow salons to leverage the e-commerce capabilities of a manufacturer, but then also earn a commission on that sale, right? Even even Amazon, right, has created an affiliates program where you can leverage professionals can leverage their marketplace to sell products. And then you even think about CRM, like customer relationship management, right? There are a lot of tools out there that salons could use to keep the conversation going with clients in between visits, right? Did you run out of that product? Can I refill it for you? Or how is that product working out for you? So, I think the challenges, and I guess my challenge at the industry is like, how do we embrace these tools that are available? How do we embrace technology versus, sitting back and just kind of perpetuating the status quo, right? That's the only way that we evolve.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing that you're able to have this glimpse at these different channels here. And what other trends do you see? You sound like you're a data guy too, aren't you?
Yeah, no, I definitely like data. I know you're a data guy too, Tom, so we can relate to each other on that front. There's a few things that I look at. One is really this, I referenced it before, but this concept of premiumization in the hair care category, right?
Hold on. I want to let that sit. So you're introducing a word here. Say it again.
Yeah, so I don't know if you're going to find this word in the dictionary, but it's one of those industry words that have popped up recently, and it's called premiumization.
Premiumization, okay.
Premiumization is essentially what it means in a very simple way is that consumers are trading up to higher price points in the category, ultimately. So as you think about beauty categories like makeup and skincare in comparison to hair care, those categories for a long time have had a much higher mix of high-end luxury products for the consumer. We're actually seeing now hair care catch up to that. Consumers that were previously using mass products like Tresemme, Pantene are seeing the value in higher priced products, whether they be from a professional or in a prestige channel, and they're actually demonstrating that they're willing to pay more. So it's a great opportunity for salons right now. And there's some good examples of this that I think are really simple. Even stop my phone's right here.
This is fascinating information. Keep going. Yep.
Yeah. No, there's some good examples, even in categories like, let's call it, hair thinning and dandruff, for example. These are categories that have long been dominated by drugstore products, right? You think dandruff, you think Selsun Blue, you think Head and Shoulders, right? Hair thinning, you think drugstore products like Rogaine, right? Now what you're seeing is a lot of brands that are bringing a lot of the same benefits, but making it more of a luxury experience, right? There is Kerastase and Away, for example, just in the past couple months have come out with dandruff lines. That's something that, high-end hair care brands really didn't touch before. And it's just one small example of this greater trend of premiumization that's happening. That's a great opportunity across all channels, really, for hair care.
You're causing me to reflect a moment here. And, your suggestion about being willing to spend more for product there's a couple dots, at least I'm trying to connect. One is not trying to connect, but I can connect, is we know that, if we look at, two different growth levels, client count and average ticket, we know that when there's some type of downturn in the economy, client count goes up, but client count goes down, visits get stretched, et cetera. People are less willing to go in, but average ticket goes up. We've seen that in every single recession. And I think what you're bringing up here, my insight I'm having right now is that everybody's raised their prices, service prices. And because we're in a very inflationary environment. We haven't really talked about raising prices in terms of products, whether it's actually raising the existing price, which could mean going against suggested retail, which you necessarily can't do. But there is this willingness to spend more per visit.
Yeah, completely agree with that.
You mentioned the 70% from a PBA study from like 10 years ago. I know exactly what the study is. And I'm actually I'm gonna say it was actually 71%. And the other reason I know that is because we found these 71% quirks. 71% of products, or 71% of clients are not offered a product, studied by PBA. 71% of clients don't come back for a second visit, and 71% of salon hours go unsold. It's this quirky little thing, but it's funny you mention that because we've used that statistic from PBA for a long time.
Yeah, yeah. And I bet that number was the same 30 years ago as it was 4 or 5 years ago. We really haven't moved the needle on it, unfortunately, but it remains a huge opportunity, I think.
What else do you see as being next?
Oh gosh.
It's a big, broad question, Zach.
Yeah.
What do you see as being next?
Yeah, totally. I think to maybe offer a counter perspective on this idea of omni-channel, right? Thinking about these three channels as three distinct and different kind of things. Actually, in many ways, you can kind of throw a lot of that out of the window, because the reality is the consumer is the channel, right? The client is the channel. And so while we may think of these things in silos, the client and the consumer does not, right? The client is out in the real world. They're on their phone, on social media. They're sitting in the chair at the salon and stylist. And so to them, a lot of the debate that happens, behind closed doors in the industry about whether a brand is professional or prestige or is distributed in one channel or another is meaningless to the consumer. It's all about, does somebody understand my needs? Can they give me a recommendation for, a great product that I can use and make me happy for it, right? And they're happy if that recommendation comes from a stylist, if it comes from an influencer on social media, if it comes from a beauty associate in a Sephora store, or an AI recommendation engine at a brand website, right? And so for me, this idea of, there's this idea of, I guess the sources of authority and the sources of expertise for the consumer are starting to fragment, right? If you went back 20 to 30 years ago, the stylist was the sole authority on hair care. And while the stylist, I think, is still the most trusted authority and the most credible authority on hair care, there is a lot of expertise and a lot of authority out there available to consumers and clients, and they want to consume it. And so, I think now is the perfect time to start thinking about what is next for the salon business model, the independent stylist, the commission salon. And for me, it's a lot about how does the salon and stylist embrace this idea that the consumer is the channel and try to leverage that ecosystem versus trying to push back on that ecosystem, because it's not going away. And in fact, if you think about it, from the consumer's standpoint, it's actually a huge opportunity to leverage the one thing that you have that nobody else does, which is 90 minutes personal relationship, with the consumer and client.
I think one of the many light bulb moments that I've heard from you this morning is this idea of now there's multiple experts, but then defining AI as an expert. You're totally right. We're competing with recommendations that are coming from a variety of different sources, including something that none of us in our lifetime really, that's not a fair statement to say it didn't see it coming, because I think we saw it coming, but it's reality now. That's a huge insight to say that, okay, that edge still does exist with the professional recommendation and that captive audience one-on-one. But that's significant competition, AI.
Yeah, well, and AI can sound like a complicated, technology that's difficult to understand. But I'll give you an example of how it plays out for in the hair care space specifically, right? So we have an AI recommendation engine on our website that goes through a series of questions that the consumer answers, but then also has the consumer take a selfie, which then goes into the AI engine, looking across, thousands of photos that we have in our database, that it allows the AI engine to accurately diagnose the consumer's hair type as well as some of their hair needs, right? That then drives a product recommendation. And then what can be done on the back end is actually tracking ratings and reviews for those recommendations. So you can see how good was my recommendation to that, did I get 4 or 5 stars or 2 stars from that customer? That then gets fed back into the engine to make better and better recommendations over time and more satisfied consumers. So, it can sound like an intimidating concept that's difficult to understand, but at the end of the day, it's just systematizing what stylists have been doing with their clients for years, right? At a personal level. So again, the one thing that it will never have, though, is that relationship, that personal touch, and that personal nuance that will never be able to be delivered, I don't think, by AI. But there is a lot that is able to be delivered, which I think puts a lot of onus on stylists and salon owners to embrace that authority that consumers want them to embrace.
Zach, this has been a wonderful conversation. Before I let you go, just some random questions for you. When is going to be your next free day?
Oh, good question. One of my philosophies for all of the years has been to draw a good work-life balance and to really try to separate work and personal. So my next free day is definitely going to be this weekend. I'm going to put 2 of them right in a row, and really just completely disconnect from work. When I'm at home, I try to be at home.
Yeah, nice. All right, I asked you who some of your mentors were. You talked about Peter Lichtenthal of formerly of Bumble and Ruben Carrera, great mentors. Anything else that Zach likes to do in his free time before we wrap up? I mean, do you have other? We had a guest here about a month ago, and he has like an aquarium. That's a big hobby. Do you have any hobbies? Do you have anything that you tell us a little bit more about Zach and what else you are into?
Yeah. Absolutely. I like outdoor and athletics as long as it's not a team sport and it's individual. So because I'm not good competing on teams, but I love to do things like scuba dive. I love to ski. Was just out in Colorado at Keystone, which was really nice, kind of doing that. Love being on the water. We have a place out in Cape Cod, so spend some time out there. And I'll tell you the one thing I've been telling everybody all week, and I'm not sure if folks can relate to it on this call, but I'm a big music guy, and I'm super excited because I got tickets to the Beyonce concert, which is going to be the most epic show this summer. So that's one of the things I'm going to be doing.
You'll probably get a few comments on that one. All right, everybody, let's give Zach a virtual round of applause here. Everybody,
Thanks,
give the guy a shout out here. Also, Zach, you should be watching for you'll be inducted into the Brain Trust. So here's your $1 million light bulb.
Amazing.
Watch for that. That should be coming your way. And tune in when you can. Tune in on Wednesdays, 10 o'clock Central Time. We'd love to have you participate, send members to your team. And I'm certainly going to invite you back as a guest to find out what's next sometime later this year or next year. So you're a great guest and a great guy, and I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Really appreciate it. Really honored to have been here, and you're doing some great work. So keep it up.
Thank you, my friend.
All right. Take care.
Take care. All right. So let's see here. What have we to discuss yet? Okay. So, all right. Yeah, I want to shout out to Lightheart Sanders, the CPAs. They're a sponsor of Lightbulb Moments, as well as Ally Health with his virtual mental health care. I do want to take a quick look and see some of the people with us today, so I can say hey. And that would be Allison, Andrew, Christine, and Connie, Aaron, Jared, Joe, June, Kara, Karen, Carrie, Carla, Kelly, Kevin, Lisa, Louisa, Linnell, Mark, Megan, Melissa, Michael, Robert, Sharon, Sheila, Terry, Tracy, and Con, as well as some other people I might have missed. So reminder, it's sponsored by the Cunity Money related programs. I'm certainly going to bring up again the big event coming up in 12 weeks at the Phil. We'd love to see you down there. If you haven't registered yet, you should register soon. And then it's not too late to sign up for Money SBO killer course. Tons of takeaways. It's coming up in a couple weeks here. So we'd love to see you join us. Love to hear from you. You can go to our website, submit comments if you want to nominate someone to be a guest. If you want to be a guest, if you want to go in the barrel, which is something where you've got a critical issue you want to see discussed, we're more than welcome to do that. So Anyway, I will take just a moment to read some of the comments. Thanks again to Zach for joining us today. Appreciate his wisdom, stats, and insights. And we are on next week, and I think I know who the guest is next week, and it's a good one. I think someone's probably going to post it in the chat there. I believe it's Luke Carlson, who always is a great guest. He has a perspective from outside the beauty industry. All right. Yep. Oh, Luke Carlson is on the 15th. So, okay. All right, everybody. Thanks again for joining us. I'm going to jump in the chat for a moment. You're welcome to disconnect. If you're watching us on YouTube, thanks again. And we look forward to seeing all of you next week. Have a great rest of the week. Bye now.